Hello wonderful people, it's Wild here. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make this gorgeous desert style house. This build makes for a striking oasis in a desert landscape, and using supplies that are easy to get in survival, this build would make for an awesome survival base too. This build is easily customizable by switching out the colored items. Plus, stay tuned to the end where I'll show you how I like to style this build to really make it a showstopper. Keep in mind that if you'd like a world download or schematic for this build, to check out my Patreon in the description below. The materials you'll need for this build are on your screen now. Keep in mind that if you can't get any of these supplies, you can leave a comment and I'll offer some substitutions, and it's always useful to have a few extra of each supply on hand. Here is the outline for today's build. You can see that it's basically a few rectangles joined together. The largest rectangle is 9 blocks by 11 blocks. The smaller one off to the right hand side is 9 by 5 blocks. And then we've got a little rectangle piece kind of coming off in an arm to the left side, and that's where our staircase is going. Let's start off by working on the walls of this first largest rectangle. We're going to begin by marking in the doorway. So we have a 3 by 3 gap here at the back. You can see that gap in the wall. We have a 2 high doorway in the center of this 11 wide wall. And then we have some windows on the front and the back. They're both set 2 in and are 1 block high, like that. We've got 2 blocks and a window, and they should be 3 blocks apart. Let's put these on the back wall as well. So when I'm counting the 2 in from this side, I'm going to count from this wall edge here. So 1, 2, window, and it should line up with the one at the front. Now that we've got all of those marked in, we can fill in the walls. We're going to be creating a texturized look like this using a mixture of smooth sandstone, sandstone, and sand, and there's 2 ways you can achieve this. We're also going to be making sure all the walls for this rectangle are 3 blocks high. The first way is to randomize as you go to add in the texture. Let's see, I might put some of this up here. You can see that I'm creating that texturized look as I build. The idea is that we want our walls to have a sort of aged appearance. And it's up to you how much of each block you use. Then once you've got a pretty good texture, it's a good idea to take a step back and make any adjustments. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. Another technique for creating the randomized texture is to fill in the whole wall with just one of your blocks. This works well if you're in creative or have ample supplies. Then once you've got that, we can go ahead and add in the texture. So we've got that added. Let's add in some sand next. There we go. So it's just about using whichever technique works best for you. I find it easier in creative to go ahead and add in my walls and then add texture. But let me know which style of building you prefer. You can get the same result either way. There we are. And onto the last wall, and I'll do this wall, filling it in with the randomize as you go method. Now we'll add in some sand and this smooth sandstone. And we'll take a step back. And there we go, we've got all the walls for this first layer. I'm going to go ahead and add in some stripped spruce logs now. I'm going to use a temporary block so that I can sit this stripped spruce log on its side, and I'm going to have these come on either edge of the build. Right over the top of the doorway, and on either side like that. Then along the front we want to create a pattern out of concrete, or rather terracotta. So we're going to alternate between red and blue terracotta like this. There we are. And you could customize this build by changing out the color of the terracotta you use. Perfect. And we're ready to work on the next section of walls. Next, we're going to add in the walls for this right-hand side of the build. Let's start by marking in our windows. At the front, we have a 2-high window in the center like this. Coming around to the side, we're going to count 2 blocks in and mark in a 2-high window, as well as 2 blocks in from the back and mark in another one. There should be a 3-block gap between them. And then we have another 2-high window centered on the back wall. Now for these walls, we're going a little bit taller at 5 blocks total, using the same texturized mixture of blocks. So we've got 2 blocks, 3 blocks, 4 blocks, 5 blocks, so I'm going to match all of my walls to this same height. There's one wall. Coming around to this side, let's continue this texture. There's our next wall. Onto this one. There's our back wall. And next we need to make sure we come inside the build and fill in these sections of walls on either side of the doorway. And there's our walls for this build. Before we continue adding onto these walls, we need to add a connection point between these 2 rooms. So I'm going to add a row of strip spruce logs in between this doorway gap, just like this. And then we need to add in a doorway here. To mark in this doorway, I'm going to count 3 blocks in, and on that 4th block, which should be in the center of this gap, I'm going to place in a temporary block for my door. And I'm just going to add in some blocks on either side to fill in that gap. Next, we're going to switch to some red terracotta. We're going to build across the front of this section of wall and then back 3. So we're just sitting over 1/2 of the build with this colored block. Then I'm going to raise the level of the walls using our sandstone mixture, just 1 block on this remaining section. There we go. And we can add on 1 more layer on top of this. Let's add in a strip spruce log in each corner and then connect those up. So here's what we've got for our build so far. We're going to be making the walls on top of this square at the back a bit taller, but let's mark in our doorway first in the center of this wall. And then we have a window coming off towards the right hand side in the center like this, and a window in the center of the back. These should line up with the windows below. And they do. Alright, now we're going to switch back to our sandstone materials, and we're going to be building up 4 high, so we'll end up 1 block above the height of the window. There's 1 wall. There's our next wall. One more wall, and we need to fill in the front wall. And there we go. We're going to add 1 more layer on top of this wall here, starting by placing a stripped spruce log in each corner, and then we're going to add in some red and blue terracotta, just alternating back and forth like this. Then I'm going to take some more of these stripped spruce logs, and I'm going to have 1 come out from each corner. And on the level below where we have some more spruce, we're going to come out from every other block. Just like that. Next, we need to add the wall that's going around the staircase over here. And we're going to be going up in groups of 2. So since I have ample supplies and creative, I'm going to mark in the shape first, and then I'll add in the texture afterwards. So if we take a step back, starting in line with this wall, we're going 2, up, 2, up, 2, up, and then we're going across 3 so we can curve around at the back. Then I can go ahead and add in my texture. Don't be afraid to take a step back and change up the way you've randomized, but I'm happy with that now. Alright, we're on to adding in some flooring now, because we've got lots of levels throughout this build and we're going to be using mud brick. I'm going to start by placing a torch in here, so that way we can add in our staircase. I'm going to begin with a couple of mud brick slabs. Then we're going to have some blocks of mud brick and packed mud. Then we've got another row of slabs and some more blocks, and you can see how I'm kind of creating a randomized texture with these blocks as well. The name of the game with this build is lots and lots of texture. Then when we get to the top, I'll add in 1 more layer of my slabs and finish off with 1 more layer of blocks. There we go. Then I can come inside the build, remove these temporary blocks for the door, and I want to fill in this floor here using a mixture of the packed mud and the mud bricks. And don't forget to leave a torch in here as well, because it will get dark. Coming on out into this same room here, we're going to fill in the floor with the same supplies. Here is definitely a case where it's easiest to texturize as you go and take a step back every now and then. Alright, let's go in with some packed mud now. It's up to you how much of either of these supplies you use, keeping in mind that the more packed mud you add, the more aged your build will appear. There we go, that's that floor filled in. I can remove these temporary blocks now to open up into the next space, and let's continue this filling in. Time for some packed mud. There we are. So if we look from above, we've got all of our lower story filled in. Okay, for the next story, we're going to start with some stripped spruce logs, and I'm going to add in a beam 2 blocks in from either side of the wall. 1, 2, and there's our beam. So should we have a 2-block gap, a 3-block gap, and a 2-block gap? I'll then add another beam going down the center of this wall. And I'm going to fill in each of these gaps with a mixture of my supplies. There we are. Coming into this room next, I'm going to have a beam going down the center of this wall. So line myself up with the center and add in some logs. Then I'm going to leave this corner free and fill in the rest of the floor with some of my mud brick slabs at this upper level here. I'm also going to fill in this layer below the door, leaving out that corner again. And I'll fill in at the very top, leaving out the corner one more time. The one area we need to fill in to complete our flooring is this section here. So to do this, I'm going to start by placing a chiseled sandstone on either corner, and then I'm just going to fill in all of these gaps with some sandstone slabs. There we go. I'm also going to add a sandstone wall on top of these chiseled sandstone blocks, and let's add in a staircase next. So I'm going to start by placing a mud brick stair onto this section of the stripped spruce log. Then we'll add in a packed mud, and then I'm going to zigzag my way up with a couple of stairs, just like that. I'm going to be using some of these spruce trapdoors to create some railing, just like this. I don't need to add railing on this side because there's going to be a piece of wall here. And don't forget to add some railing to the top of the staircase as well. There we are. I can then take some stripped spruce logs and I'm going to have them come out from the red section of the build like this on every other block. I'm going to add in my spruce doors next. So we've got one in this gap. We've got one down here. And then I'm going to come up to the top of this build, and in fact, while we're here, let's add in our ladder going all the way from the lower story up to the top. And we're going to add some decorations up here. I'm going to start by placing a chiseled sandstone in each corner, and then placing 2 sandstone walls on top of that. Then we're going to grab some smooth sandstone stairs, and we're going to place groups of 2 curving out from each of these decorations. And to finish off the railing up here, we're going to add a birch fence gate in each of the gaps. Next, we're going to move down to the lower section of the build to add in some decorations on this edge. We're going to start with some chiseled sandstone, and I'm going to place one beside here, and then I'm going to place one on every other block coming around like this. When I get to this edge where my staircase is, I'm only going to place 3 chiseled sandstone along. Then I'm going to move over to this back corner and do the same thing coming along this way, and just place in one here, so we should have a 3 wide gap. Let's add some sandstone slabs in between these gaps. And we'll add a sandstone wall on top of each of these blocks. Next, we need to fill in the gaps. So in the corner over here, I'm going to place in 2 spruce planks. We'll add 2 in this corner and 2 in this corner like this. Then we're going to place in some spruce trapdoors. You can see how I'm just placing these right behind the slabs. And let's flip all of them. I'm then going to go in with some sandstone stairs, and I like to just add these behind the chisel blocks. This is just to give a bit of a nicer look to the interior section of this outdoor space. Then I'm going to grab some spruce signs, and I'm just going to place these on some of the trapdoors and some of these spruce planks. The goal here is to add just a bit more dimension. There we go, and here's how that decoration should look. Let's add some more dimension using some spruce. We're going to bring this log out, count across 3 and add 1 in the center, count across 3 and add 1 to the end of this log. And I'm going to add 1 on this corner as well. Let's come to the back of the build and add 1 on either side and in the center as well. And then we're going to use some spruce slabs on either side of the gap and a trapdoor in the center to create a little archway. And around on this side, we're just going to need 1 slab and then our trapdoor to create a sort of half archway. Let's add some more details to the edge of this staircase next. I'm going to place a cut sandstone slab on this end, then a wall, then we've got a sandstone stair facing that way, and another wall. Let's add in a sandstone slab and a smooth sandstone stair here. We've got a wall on top of this section, then a sandstone stair and a sandstone slab. We'll add 1 more wall, and let's finish off with 1 more stair facing that way. So we've added that same aged edge to the top of the staircase. Let's add some sandstone decorations to the doorways next. For this doorway here, we've already got 1 stair, but I'm going to place in a smooth sandstone stair on the other side. Then we're going to face some stairs in towards each other like this. And we'll finish with a slab in this gap. For this doorway out the top, we're going to have a bit more of a complex design. Let's start with 2 stairs again, and then some stairs facing the other way, and another set of stairs like that on top. Then we need to create a little archway with just a couple of slabs. So you can see that by using the smooth sandstone, this doorway decoration blends together nicely, but with the shadows, it creates a really geometric design. Let's go in with some spruce now. I'm going to add spruce trapdoors in between each of these gaps. And over here, I'm just going to place it so it's sitting over the top. And then we need to create the same archways on the lowest section of the build by using some slabs and trapdoors. There we go. Our build is really starting to come together now. Next up, we're going to be adding a chimney to this back left corner in this gap between the staircase and the wall. I'm going to begin by placing in my base walls. Once again, we're going to be using a mixture of the different sandstone textures. So I'm just placing a 2x2 square first, and then we're going to be building up on these 2 blocks. We want to build up a total of 6 more blocks, so this section's 7 high. And let's check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Perfect. Next we need to add a design to this front section. So I'm going to start with a couple of stairs, and I'll be alternating between using sandstone and smooth sandstone stairs while building to get that texturized look again. Then we're going to place in 2 stairs upside down like this. Then we're going to create a small square of stairs. Like that. We've got stairs facing towards each other, and 1 more stair here. And we're going to place a block in this gap. Just like that. I'm going to add 1 more block on top of each of these 3 here. Just like this, and then I'm going to come to the back of the build beside where we have these stairs and beside this spruce log to add in some more decorations. I'm going to build up 4 high to begin with. Just like that. Let's add in 2 stairs next. And then 1 more block. Then over to this side, we're going to add in a stair, followed by a wall and 1 more stair. Coming up a bit higher, in this section here, I'm going to build up 2 more blocks. So that way I can add in some stairs. We've got 2 facing forward here and 1 facing towards the build on this side. This is where we're going to add in our first campfire and surround it with some spruce trapdoors to create a chimney. On top of this stair, I'm going to add in 1 more block. Let's go with a sand block, and this is where we're having our second campfire, and I'm going to surround it on these 3 sides, leaving this gap free. We're going to finish off this chimney by placing in a couple of sandstone walls here, and then we've got some stairs, and we're finishing off with 2 blocks at the top. On top of these last 2 blocks is where we're having our last campfire, and I'll surround all of the sides of this one with some trapdoors. So taking a step back, here's how this chimney should look. Next, we want to add a little bit of dimension to these walls, and we're going to be using some sandstone for that. Let's start by coming underneath this central log here, and I'm going to build up 2 high with some blocks. Then I'll add a wall on the top to connect like this, and then some stairs coming over to the side. I'm going to add a wall in front, and then 1 more stair on this side. And let's see, I think I might add a sand block here instead. There we go. Coming around to this corner, I'm going to place in a stair just on the very corner like this. Then we've got a wall on the corner, and then we're going to place in a block and a stair on top of that. Now I'm going to come to the center of this wall. We can find that because it should be in the center of these 2 windows, and below this log, we're going to add in some more of this texture. So I'm going to build up 3 high in the center. Then I'll add a smooth sandstone stair on top. Over to the side, I'm going to build up 2 high and place in a sandstone stair. And then over to this side, I'm going to place in 1 block and a wall, and then we're having a stair come forward like this. On to the back of the build now. Let's add in a block and a stair on this corner, or rather a block up 2 high with a stair over to this side, and then we've got 2 sandstone walls. Then coming on to this back wall, I'm going to add in a block, and then we've got 2 stairs curving around. Just like that. In the center, I'm going to build up 2 high. Place in a sandstone wall, and then we've got a couple of stairs. There we go. And then finally, I'm going to add in 2 more stairs to the side where we have our chimney. Now for the windows, I'm using a mixture of red, orange, light blue, cyan, and blue stained glass. And it's up to you how you place these in, but I'm just going to create a mixture here. Now if you have sandstone above a window, it might fall down into the gap, but that's okay, you can just move that back into place. The idea is we're creating a natural stained glass look. And I'm going to fill in all of my windows like this. And keep in mind that you could switch out these colors to create any look you like. You can see that I'm trying to keep the red and the orange diagonally away from each other to distribute that warm hue. I think that works well. Let's come around and do this front side. There we go. We have a few more windows, I think. Oh, we're all finished. We got all the way around the build. Wonderful. We're gonna go with some more decorations though. Let's add in some places to place some pots underneath these windows using a slab and a trapdoor. just like that. I'm going to add in some buttons. Let's add 3 over the top of each of these windows on the lower section of the build. I'm also going to add 3 to either side here and here. Going to have some more buttons over on this tower-like section. I'm just going 4 buttons back here, then I'll raise up and continue on. And I'm going to go all the way around this top section with some more buttons. I'm using dark oak buttons here, and they provide a really nice contrast between the dark wood and the sandstone background. Next up, we're going to be adding some kind of canopies or coverings over this top section as well as off to the side here. Let's start on the larger top section one first. I'm going to start by building up 2 high with some spruce fences on top of this wall, and then I'll build up 4 high in this join between these beams here so that they're level. I'm going to add a couple of fences on top of these logs, and then a couple of fences coming out from these fences. Now for the canopy itself, we're going to be using a mixture of campfires and spruce trapdoors. We're going to start by placing a row of spruce trapdoors along this way. And you can grab out a temporary block if you'd like to make sure that all of your trapdoors are facing the same direction. And I'll remove those. So we're going from the edge of this wall out to the end of where we have these fences. Next, we'll have a row of campfires, and I want to make sure the top logs are facing horizontally like this. Then we'll have a row of trapdoors again. Campfire, trapdoor, and the last row of campfires. Then I'm going to be using an iron shovel to put all of these out. Just like that. You can see how it looks like it's made with long, thin logs. For the next covering like this, I'm going to come down beside the stairs and count out to 2 blocks, and on that 3rd block I'll build up 2 high. I'm then going to count 3 across, and I'm going to build up another post so there's a 3 block gap between them. Once again, we're going to use our spruce trapdoors and our campfires, and I'm going to use some of these temporary blocks to make sure they're all facing the same direction. Row of campfires next. Row of trapdoors. Campfires and trapdoors again. Let's put these out. So you could use this for a number of different things. You could store some items under here, you could store wood, but I think it looks nice to grab out some hay bales and put in a little stack. Let's see, we'll put one this way, that one over there, and then one off to the side, just like that. Let's add some decorative lighting into the build now. I'm going to place a lantern on top of some of that hay. Let's have a lantern over here. Where should we have another one? Up on this post here. I'm going to place one over on this side. And I think I might hang one from this covering here. I'm also going to place a campfire onto here, and the smoke looks lovely billowing up. Next up, I'm going to come inside the build and I'm going to add in some lighting in here. I'm going to be hanging a lantern in this story. In this story, we have less height for our rooms, so I'm just going to place in a couple of torches like this. As with down here, we have a little less height, but I might hang a lantern from this beam. I'm going to use a couple of stairs to create an archway as well as a couple of trapdoors. And I'm going to be placing a stair like this underneath each of the log beams. And I'm going to place in a couple of trapdoors as well. That just gives this ceiling a more decorative appearance. And let's place in a couple of torches here. There we are. In this room, we could leave it with a torch or we could hang a lantern. It depends on how you plan on using this space. I think I might just place a torch beside the doorway here. And I'm just going to double check I've lit up all my rooms. And perfect, all of our interior lighting's done. Okay, so we need to add a few more details to really bring this to life, including some decorated pots as well as some decorations around the exterior. And here we go, here's our finished desert house. Let's have a look at all the decorations I've added. First of all, you can see I've placed in tons of decorated pots as well as these regular flower pots, and I've used a mixture of greenery with them. So we've got some bamboo, these azalea bushes, mangrove saplings, we've got cactuses of course, and then we've got some of these acacia saplings. Adding in that pop of greenery just helps to break up the warm hues that we've got going on in the build, but the terracotta color of the pots ties in well with the terracotta decorations we've got throughout. Other ways that I've brought in some greenery include framing the build with some cactuses and some of this sugarcane, and I've placed in some custom palm trees around the build. Just a group of 3 I think looks nice, and this helps to just frame the build and add a little bit of separation. Now of course you could place this in any sort of desert biome or arid environment. We could also work in, say, an acacia biome, but I've managed to place mine on an island like this surrounded by some water, and that provides a nice blue backdrop behind the cream color of the build. If I placed it over here on the sand, it would still look fantastic, but there is a large sandy mountain behind, so it wouldn't have quite as much definition. So I could opt instead to place it on a flatter piece of desert, or a piece of desert like this where we have some red desert behind, and that just makes your building stand out a bit more. Another decoration piece that I've added in is this sandy looking path. It has a really subtle look using a mixture of upside down sandstone stairs to be able to get this texture, some of the stripped birch logs, and then we've got some birch planks and some birch buttons and the pressure plates for a bit of texture, and that just defines the walkway up. I framed it a little bit more with some of these spruce fences to tie in with the build, and I've used the spruce as well to create a little pen for my camel. I've also placed in a little seating area here beside the building, and a fun option for this build would be to place in several of this style or several of this build to create a little town, and you could, if you're in survival, use one of them for, say, crafting and storage, one for a smelting room, and so on. You could even break this build into 2 parts to create 2 separate builds, one with a tower like this and add a door in place of this window, and then a shorter build and just continue the decorations from one side around to the next. So if you do create a desert village, be sure to share some pictures in my Discord because I'd love to see what you create. So now you've got a beautiful desert house. If you enjoyed today's video, I'd really appreciate it if you consider liking and subscribing, and check out my Patreon to support me further and get some awesome benefits. I'll see you in another video.